like to call to order the Proctor City Council meeting for Monday, April 20th, 2026. Can you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Perform a roll call at this time. Councilor Benson?
Present.
Councilor Johnson?
Present.
Councilor DeWall?
Present.
Mayor Ward's also in attendance. Please let the minutes reflect Councilor Peterson is on an excused absence and all others in attendance. Looking for a motion to approve the pre-agenda minutes from April 6, 2026. I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Benson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Looking for a motion to approve the regular city council meeting from Monday, April 6, 2026.
So moved.
Councilor Benson made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Johnson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Looking for a motion to approve the local Board of Appeals and Equalization meeting minutes from April 7th, 2026.
So moved.
Councilor DeWall made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Benson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Looking for a motion to approve tonight's agenda. Before making that motion, I would like to add 6B under new business, stamp out hunger proclamation, and add Jim Twomey to the comments and suggestion from citizens present. Any other discussion on that? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
I'll go ahead and make that motion. Second by Councilor Johnson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Brings us to comments and suggestions from the citizens present. The City of Proctor welcomes everyone to tonight's meeting. The council will now open the public comment suggestion period of the meeting. This is a time set aside for members of the public, whether here in person or watching from home, to address the council on matters related to city business. Each speaker will be granted up to 3 minutes, and before you begin, please state your name and city where you reside for the record. If you are here representing an organization or the media, you're welcome to include that as well if you'd like. The council will listen to all comments, so we are not required to respond or take action during this portion of the meeting. Recording and photography are welcome, provided they don't disrupt the meeting or prevent others from being heard. All speakers are expected to maintain decorum and respect. Obscene, profane, threatening, or disruptive language or behavior will not be allowed. Anyone who continues to disrupt the meeting after a warning may be asked to leave or be removed under the presiding officer's authority to preserve order at this meeting as provided by Minnesota Statute Section 412.191, Subdivision 2, and Chapter 31 of the Proctor City Code. Once the public comment suggestion period concludes, the council will move on with the agenda, and no further public input will be taken unless recognized by the mayor. If you'd like to speak, please come forward to the podium or dial 218-628-6268 to participate remotely. We'll pause briefly to give everyone a chance to join us. And with that, Mr. Twomey, would you like to start?
Jim Twomey's my name. I'm of an 824 6th Street. And the last time I went to the street garage to see about getting the snow hauled out of the end of the street, I think most of you know where I live over there. The street dead ends in front of my house. And the city plows the street generally with the 1-ton V-plow. And they push the snow into the end of the block up to where my fence is. And 3-4 years ago, I guess it was, when Jim Roweeder was the city administrator, I spoke with him about getting snow hauled out of there when it gets in about 20 feet back from my fence. That's where my gate comes in, so that I would have emergency access to my property. And at that time, it came up that he says he would let Rick go down the street garage, and when that snow got filled in there, I could just stop down there and the street garage or call him and let them know that when they had a chance to clean it out. And so that plan has worked quite well up until this last winter. And probably about 3 months ago, I called and asked them if they would, which was the first time it would have hauled any of it out this year, if they would come over and clean out some of that snow, up, at least up to my gate. And they, normally in the past, they at least clean out that one side where they don't have to clean the whole width of the street, I'm saying. And asked if they would come over and clean that out. And then it says, also if you would come down the alley after you get that. And my friendly neighbor comes down the alley with, previous to this, comes down the alley with his side-by-side and his plow, and it lifts the plow up about a foot off the ground, knocks the whole window that's from behind my house down into the alley. So I said, if you could come down the alley and just, as you can just push that off to the side where I plow my snow off by the side of my garage. So that went fine. Well, then a month ago, it would be about a month ago, and we got that next snow. I waited for about a week after the snow, and I stopped out street garage and asked if they could clean that street out. And Jay says, we can't do any personal favors anymore. And I says, what? There's no personal favor about cleaning out the street in front of my house as it is the rest of the way down the block. And he said, and I think it was maybe Josh told me, he says, well, your neighbor called the city on us. So I stopped in and talked to Jess. And I said, well, I'd like to get that snow cleared out of there. I says, it's in the interest of public safety. And Jess says, I don't see it as a public safety issue. I think it more as a personal preference or some words to that effect. And I said, well, I think if a fire truck has to get in front of my property, that's definitely in public interest, public safety. And she just told me, well, you access your home from the alley, don't you? And I says, yes, I do. And so does the rest of the block. And they also access it from the street. I told her if there was a fire call, like my house fire, one truck's going to come up the alley and the second one goes in and comes down 6th Street. And with not a real positive answer of any type, then she said, well, I believe she mentioned I could talk to the fire chief and see what he says. And I seen Kerry at the fire hall one day, so I stopped there and he says, well, yeah, for sure that's a public safety interest there, that we can't get in, And I said, how does your response work there? Is it any different than when I was there years ago? And he says, our first truck would come up the alley, our second truck would come in on the street. So I also took the liberty of calling this fellow that I know personally, Dewey Johnson, which is, he was head of emergency management at the 911 center, and since I talked to him previously, he said, well, got promoted now, he says, now I'm ahead of 911. So I told him, asked him if he thought that was in the public interest, and he says, it definitely is. So I guess what I'm looking for now is to find out why they can't clean that snow out of the street. That only would have been twice this year as it's been, it's only once, and of course, with the temperatures we had, I mean, right now it's down to next to nothing. But a month ago and 2 months ago, that was a different story. I would like to see that for the few times that it would take to clean it out, I certainly think that I'm not asking too much.
No, and I'll respond to it if you're finished.
Pardon me?
Are you finished?
Yes.
I'll respond to a couple of things. Councilor DeWall and I drove over there 2 weeks ago now, 3 weeks ago, something like that. There's a couple concerns that I have. There's a fence that goes across the right-of-way, which I know Mr. Twamy did go through the proper channels to get a conditional use or a variance, whatever you did for that fence that goes across.
Can I move up a little closer here where I can hear you?
Yeah. But it limits how far back the snow can be pushed because of the fence. If the fence wasn't there, the guys could push the snow back a lot further, which brings up another issue now that we have a resident that brought it to our attention regarding public safety and the concerns there. There's a hydrant back behind that fence too. So, in my opinion, it's maybe something we address at the public safety meeting tomorrow on whether or not we feel that fence going across our right-of-way should be there for public safety. It's blocking a hydrant and it's limiting our street guys from pushing snow back. If the fence wasn't there, they could push it back further. It wouldn't be in front of his gate, and it would resolve all the issues, would be my suggestion. But 3-4 years ago, to Mr. Twamy's point, Jim Reuter was a city councilor, so I don't know if you spoke to Jim as a councilor in that capacity, but he wasn't city administrator. Shoot, that had to have been, what, 12 years ago?
Well, it was,
I've been here 8, and Mark was here, I think, 3 years before I got on board.
the election that I first got on. He was changing from Reuter to Casey.
Yeah, so 11, 12 years ago, Jim was the administrator. Things have changed. I don't have a problem with the street guys removing snow as time permits, but every time you called me, it was right after a snowstorm, and our street guys, all 4 of them, because it's not a big crew, but they're busy clearing snow from roads and alleys and sidewalks and everything else. Like I said, the 2 options, like I've told you during our phone calls, the 2 options is haul it out when time permits, if time permits,
That's how it's been.
or push it further back over your fence and deal with that fence issue, blocking the fire hydrant, because that's the real public safety issue that I'm concerned about, now that you brought it to our attention.
You're aware that the street ends where my fence is.
Correct. But they could push that snow back further past your gate and it wouldn't be an issue if the fence
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
there.
And then originally, that's where they do push it. Now, I don't know if it was your footprints over there, seeing it.
Might have been.
Days after or something, but.
Well, I called you the
notice
day.
The pile was down pretty low there,
Mhm.
up towards that fence at the end, and then the bump was higher because when they pushed the snow in, they ran into the harder snow, and they were just pushing it with the 1 ton.
Right, those last few snows
If they
were
were
heavy.
hauling, I've always waited at least a week after we get snow before I ask them about plowing. Because I know that they got all these other streets to do.
And to whichever street department guy Whatever street department guy made the mention of, some people in your neighborhood posting signs and calling the city about special favors, that is factual, that did happen. And so they are concerned about doing things like that. Now, I understand that, in your opinion, it's not a special favor, it's a public safety issue, and I would agree with you 100%, it is a public safety issue. But in my opinion, eliminating that fence across our right-of-way would solve the public safety issue.
But if they came in a week after snow and they got everything else cleaned out and hooked around, I could let them know that it's filled up.
Right, and
Because, and like I say, look at us taking 80–90% of the winter before it even got to the point in the calling.
right. Yeah, and I don't want to get into the business where council starts dictating how our foremen and managers run their departments. That's why they're put in those positions. I don't know what they do on a daily basis, so I'm not gonna be the one that says, yep, Jay or Josh, you guys gotta go remove that snow. I don't have that capacity to do that. We, as a council, we set policy and regulations but we don't necessarily direct our employees on day-to-day business. That we're gonna leave up to our managers and administration.
Somebody from the city, if I called the city hall or called the street garage and said that the snow's filling up, and if they came a week later to clean it out, I'd be well in favor of that.
I don't want to get into that because we have other hammerhead dead ends that there's a reason why they go beyond or call it a deadhead, hammerhead intersection. And we have more than just that in our city. And it's just going to be a plethora of, okay, now we're just going to cater to everyone. And then it's going to be, well, my sidewalk needs shoveling, my fire, I mean, it used to be everyone kind of watched a fire hydrant next to them. Everyone kind of took care of a section of sidewalk. Under extreme conditions, I think the street department does a good job where once they are caught up, they try to go back and throughout the city clean out where they need to or where they feel it needs to. But I agree with the mayor. I don't want to get into micromanaging a department head on, because then you get into favorism. I mean, you said you own up to the fence, so you own the hydrant too? Because I don't know.
The city don't have no street right away beyond that fence.
So why do we have a city-owned hydrant on private property? Because I was under the
That's right.
understanding that we only put it in our right-of-way.
Yeah, they've got a 22-foot, I don't know what you call it.
Right-of-way?
Where the
Easement?
that's where the water line goes, in that 22-foot.
Going towards the creek.
Yeah, going east.
So I agree. I think it should be, just so happens that we have a public safety meeting scheduled tomorrow at 3. And I'd like to see, that's why we have it. I'd like to see them have a discussion on it and kind of bring a recommendation to us and then
we could touch base with Chief Helquist. He's on public safety as well.
Yeah.
And get
it
his
kind of
thoughts on
catches, yeah.
Yeah, because even if the street were open, they ain't gonna be able to drive no bumper down to it.
No, but I'm just talking snow pile in general. They're leaving that, if you look where your fence is and where that pile started, there's a good 5 feet at least, maybe 8 feet in between that, because they're not pushing it all the way up as far as they could because of that fence.
They don't want to take a chance at hitting the fence.
If the fence wasn't there, they could push that snow back further and your gate would be wide open.
There's about 20 feet from that fence to my gate.
Could be,
Because I got, that fence is 39 feet.
could be. Yep. But with that additional 8 feet, 5 to 8 feet that they're leaving,
Right,
that would push that snow pile back.
it's still in the right of way. I don't know if this is a right of way or an easement though. That's the
So,
thing.
We'll have our street foreman, we'll have our police chief and our fire department chief, along with Councilor Wall, myself, Administrator Rich, will all be at the public safety meeting tomorrow, so we'll definitely bring this up as an item.
Okay.
And that's an open meeting. You could come tomorrow to that meeting
I know, but there's.
if you wanted,
That's when, tomorrow night?
Tomorrow at 3
at 3.
Oh, tomorrow at 3.
in the conference room.
Was it
Okay.
flush with this
So-
one?
We'll bring it up then.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Did you have anything to, yeah,
Possible, yes,
go ahead.
Hi, my name is Laura Clefman, and I'm an occupational therapist and owner of Outlook Therapy LLC. I'm a representative of a Proctor resident at 1106 Almac. I, along with two other individuals, this individual's guardian, as well as the City of Proctor property owner of the home he lives in, have been communicating with the City of Proctor. And I just wanted to make myself present and available, knowing that this is not a city council decision to make, but I think that the city council was advised that this is something that's happening kind of behind the scenes. I wanted to make myself present in terms of a fence variance that's being requested as a reasonable accommodation that has started in November and has continued on until now. Without the words reasonable accommodation, I think that there's been some misinterpretation from our city partners as well as ourselves being able to represent a request on behalf of a disability, but the secret, it's never been a secret about somebody who has this need for a disability related need. But I'm here to answer any questions or represent anything, but I'm also trying to be here to make a request that a decision is made by Friday this week, because this request has been into the City of Proctor March 23rd. And I think a month of putting a request out seems to be an appropriate amount of time to wait for a response. So that's my specific double need that I have, requesting that it gets figured out sooner rather than later, but then also being able to answer any questions that might come up.
Council have any questions regarding that? I will say that this was on our last agenda. We only meet every 2 weeks, right? Well, first and third Mondays. Sometimes there's a leg in there with an extra week, but it is in our attorney's hands right now, and our administrator, they're working on this for the reasonable accommodation.
Sure.
By Friday, that probably won't happen, just being the bearer of bad news. Like I said, we only meet every 2 weeks, so our next meeting would be May 4th. So possibly could be on the agenda then. I'm not making any promises because it all depends on what the attorney finds and sees, but it could possibly be on our next agenda.
Is this a decision to be made by the city council or by our city administrator and lawyer?
I'll defer to our administrator or attorney, yeah.
I think it's appropriate for the council to make the decision.
So this request came in March 23rd that was given to the City of Proctor. I think we could adequately say that it's been quite a prolonged request. Again, wording and verbiage have been difficult to come to a commonality to understand the request. I do think there are sometimes discriminatory practices that are revisited when we're talking about how long we're waiting for a response. And so I would just like to request that there be some consideration that from the beginning our request has been answered in this way, pay this money, do this variance, show up to these meetings. And yep, our language may not have been super clear, but the need has not changed. And I'd like to expedite a response that would make sense in terms of meeting an individual's need who's been waiting for an excessive amount of time. Accordingly. And also, we really have not gotten a lot of guidance. I was not aware that April 6th was going to be a city council meeting topic. Should I have been watching city council meetings? Yes. Our planning and zoning committee meetings have been emailed to us and let us know when things are on the agenda, but this time it was not, and that's probably because it's public knowledge, I'm assuming. I don't know. But that's why I'm not here on the 6th. I'm here now because I realized It was on the city council agenda and was not, none of us were present
Yeah.
to be able to address it.
And just for your reference, it was on our agenda. It was under clerk advises council. It was
Yes.
not an actionable item at that time because
Yep.
they were doing research on it.
Yep.
It was on there, but there was no discussion held on it. It was more informative than anything.
Sure.
So I apologize for the delay. The reason that it got expedited to the council is because you went through the planning and zoning process and they weren't,
Prepared.
they
Weren't prepared for
they
the
were following
request.
what city code and city ordinances read, right? So for the accommodating circumstances, it was brought to us to revisit and we handed the buck off to our city attorney to review. So apologize for the delay. I make a joke about it, but it's factual that government moves slow.
We're aware.
I'm
I
sure-
respect
I'm sure-
that.
I'm sure you are, so. It is on our radar, we are working on it. The best we could probably do is I think it's May 4th.
Could that be written in the minutes? Because I need some level of documentation to be able to support forward progress with this.
We can say we had a discussion during public comment on it, but
Sure.
like I said, there's no promises that it'll be on May 4th.
Sure.
It's all up to what the attorney
The
finds.
goal might be May 4th, I
Yeah,
hear that, but,
That's our goal.
okay. Does that seem reasonable? I'm asking the city of Proctor.
Would have to defer to him.
And I'm happy to advise the council on the standards that you'll be looking at when you're analyzing this request. That can certainly be done in the next 2 weeks.
So
And just to clarify, there's been two separate tracks here. There was a variance request to the planning commission that was denied through a written decision from the planning commission. And then there's a subsequent request for a reasonable accommodation under federal law. And that's what we're addressing right now.
I would like to add to that, that in the beginning of this process in November, we had a pre-meeting to discuss the disability-related needs, not using the words reasonable accommodation, but talking about disability-related needs for a change to the variance. We were advised by the city of Proctor to fill out a fence variance form. We were advised to pay the $300. We were advised to come to the meeting, and we followed what we were advised on. And I can fairly say that I believe those of us trying to support an individual living in your community probably did not use the federal language nor reference the federal law. And I do think there is some shared responsibility between the city of Proctor as well as those making the request. And I will tell you that the city of Proctor did not have that awareness, that there are multiple laws related to this type of request. And I respect that. A smaller community may not know that. I've learned a lot. I'm sure you've learned a lot. You've created an accommodations page, a reasonable request accommodations page. Thank you very much for making that available. But I'm also kind of wondering, should we have paid that $300 for that fence variance? So there's been a lot of messy stuff, and I do think it's an appropriate request. If the request hasn't been processed yet with our city council, that was March 23rd when that request was made. So I'm just wondering if you've already had a meeting on the 6th, and you've had one on the 20th, when would we anticipate that that would be processed and a decision made? If it hasn't been considered. I'm not sure who's considering it or the process, and maybe you're still figuring out the process.
Would you like me to speak to it? Sure. I mean, there are some other moving parts to it. There is some medical information and health information in it that we're trying to be sensitive to, how we discuss that in a public forum without violating someone's rights. I don't know if that's our responsibility not to violate someone's rights or your responsibility as his client. So it's just, it's a difficult situation. And we have to post meetings. If it's going to be a closed, we have to post meetings in a certain time frame, give you time for preparation to hear that. So it's not a straightforward process as most of our permits and other processes are.
And there is no official time limitation on a reasonable accommodation request. It's a reasonable time. And like Jess said, there are some concerns here about talking about private medical data in a public meeting. I will advise the council, I do think we're going to have a closed session to discuss this private medical data. And I'm also ready, certainly within the next 2 weeks, to provide you with the standards of review when analyzing this request.
That'd be good.
And I would also like to review that this conversation has been happening since November 2025 about private medical information, how to do that with public forums. I cannot accommodate how the city of Proctor does their business. I'm here to represent an individual that has a disability, we're trying to keep safe. And I hope that there would be some forward movement in that area. Are there any other questions that I can answer or anything, responses that I can give if anybody has any?
Any other questions?
Okay,
Thank you. Right? Yeah. All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Looking for a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
So move.
Counselor Johnson made the motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Counselor Benson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. That will bring us to 6A. Tentative labor agreements. Looking for a motion to approve the Teamsters Local 346 Street Department agreement.
So moved.
Counselor Benson made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor DeWall. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote on this one. Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Benson?
Yes.
Counselor DeWall?
Yes.
Mayor Ward will abstain from the vote. That will bring us to the Teamsters 346 office agreement. Is there a motion to approve the Teamsters 346 office agreement?
So,
Counselor DeWall made the motion, seconded by Counselor Johnson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Oh, we'll do a roll call vote again, I'm sorry. Counselor Johnson?
yes.
Counselor Benson?
Yes.
Counselor DeWall?
Yes.
Mayor Ward will abstain from that vote as well. Brings us to the UFCW Local 1189 agreement. Is there a motion to approve that? I'll make a motion to approve the UFCW 1189 agreement. Is there a second?
Second.
Sent by Counselor DeWall. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. That will bring us to 6B, Stamp Out Hunger Proclamation. So I believe it was Friday evening, we received an email from the Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive Committee inviting us to a press conference on April 29th, I believe, at the Heritage Center. But I put together a proclamation for this as they were asking for that as well. So May 9th of 2026 will be Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive Day. Looking for a motion to approve the Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive Day proclamation.
So move.
Counselor Johnson made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Sent by Counselor Benson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Brings us to members' concerns. Counselor DeWall.
Nothing.
Thank you. Counselor Johnson.
I have nothing.
Thank you. Counselor Benson.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor?
Okay, I got a few things. Again, we're all invited to that April 29th, 3 o'clock Heritage Center for the Food Drive press conference. Wednesday, April 29th at 7 p.m. here at City Hall, the Historical Society will be hosting a meeting regarding the Hoghead Festival. So anyone interested in helping out with that, please attend. You should have all received an invite to the League of Minnesota Cities Annual Conference to be held in Rochester, June 24th through the 26th. Please register before May 1 if you're interested in attending. They are offering an early bird discount before May 1. And I will not be at the next City Council meeting on May 4th. I'll be traveling for work, so I'll miss another one this year. Counselor Benson,
Help me here through, Mr. Mayor, I do have one item.
go for it. I'm finished.
Okay, thank you. On May 9th, in addition to Stamp Out Hunger Day, there is the community-wide garage sale. So I encourage people to, as they're going around picking up the foodstuffs for Stamp Out Hunger, be mindful of all the drivers for the community-wide garage sale day.
Good update. Thank you. That is all I have. Counselor Benson's finished. Administrator Rich.
I have nothing, Mayor.
Thank you. Attorney Henka. That being said, we'll entertain a motion to pay the bills in the amount of $264,296.73. I'll go ahead and make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Johnson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Looking for a motion to adjourn at 6:43.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Counselor DeWall made a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? I'll second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.